Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Yeah.
Ready to explore a text that might be completely new to you? It's called the Book of Enoch.
Yeah, it's a really old religious text,
Right.
and it's super important to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church.
Right.
But a lot of other Christian and Jewish groups don't really recognize it.
So let's get everyone up to speed. The book is all about Enoch, and according to tradition, he was Noah's great-grandfather. But here's the thing. It's full of stories and ideas that have had a huge impact. I mean, everything from how people interpreted the Bible early on to even modern books and movies. Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you know what's really interesting? The Book of Enoch has these 5 distinct parts. The Book of Watchers, the Book of Parables, the Astronomical Book, the Book of Dreams, and the Epistle of Enoch.
5 sections.
Each one gives you this unique look into how people back then thought about angels, the universe, and humanity's place in it all.
So let's dive right into that first section, the Book of Watchers. It all starts with these angels. They're called the Watchers. And let's just say they weren't exactly following the rules.
Yeah, they basically decided to break some pretty major celestial rules.
Oh.
They came down to Earth, and they started these forbidden relationships with human women.
So in the context of what people believed back then,
This was a massive no-no.
I can imagine.
It went against divine law and messed with the natural order of things.
And to make things even more complicated, these unions created children, the Nephilim. And they're described as giants. But we're not talking about friendly giants here.
Right.
These were more like monsters, causing violence and corruption everywhere they went.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the interbreeding that was a problem. The Watchers also shared forbidden knowledge with humans. Things like how to work with metal, how to fight wars, even sorcery and cosmetics.
Wow, really?
And the text seems to suggest that this sudden burst of knowledge, especially knowledge that could be used for bad things,
Yeah.
like it added to all the chaos and corruption that was already happening.
So it's almost like the ancient world's version of too much information too soon.
Right.
They just weren't ready for that kind of power.
Exactly. The text really grapples with this idea that knowledge, especially when it's used the wrong way, can be dangerous and disruptive.
It makes you think about all the anxieties we have today, about things like technology and AI.
It's amazing, isn't it, how these old stories still reflect worries we have even now?
So how does this whole Watcher saga end?
Well, eventually people had enough. Their cries reached God, and he sent angels to deal with the situation.
Okay.
Uriel was sent to warn Noah about the flood that was coming.
The flood.
Gabriel had to confront the Nephilim, and Raphael was given the task of imprisoning Azazel, who was the leader of the Watchers.
So in this context, the flood was like this. Cosmic reset button, wiping out the corruption and giving everyone a fresh start.
Right.
It's amazing how this section of the Book of Enoch ties into that familiar story, the biblical flood narrative, but with these extra layers of angelic rebellion and divine intervention. But the Book of Enoch isn't just about fallen angels and massive floods. It also gives us a glimpse into the future. With the Book of Parables?
Exactly. That's where the focus shifts to what we call eschatological themes.
Okay, now eschatological. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, it's a fancy word, but it basically means ideas about the end of the world, judgment, and the ultimate destiny of humanity.
So like prophecies and visions of the afterlife, that sort of thing.
Exactly. And this is where we meet a really important figure, the Son of Man.
The Son of Man.
He's described as this pre-existing divine being who will come to judge the wicked and redeem the righteous.
Hold on. The Son of Man. That sounds really familiar. Is that where that idea came from?
It's a figure that becomes really important in later Jewish and Christian traditions, and the Book of Enoch gives us one of the earliest and most detailed descriptions of this messianic savior figure.
So you're saying this book, which isn't even part of the Bible for most Christians, actually helps shape some of the core ideas of Christianity.
Yeah, it shows how connected religious ideas are and how they change over time. The Book of Enoch might not be canonized in many traditions, but it gives us this incredible look into all these beliefs that were floating around in the centuries before Christianity emerged.
That's mind-blowing. So we've got fallen angels, giants roaming the earth, a cosmic flood, and a messianic savior who will judge humanity. What comes next?
Well, get ready for things to get a little more cosmic. The next part is the astronomical book. It takes us on a journey through the heavens,
Okay.
exploring how people in ancient times understood the stars, the sun, the moon, even the idea of time itself.
All right, I'm ready. Bring on the cosmic insights.
One thing that's really fascinating about this section is that it presents a calendar system that's different from the traditional Hebrew lunar calendar.
Oh, wow.
This suggests that there were different schools of thought and practices, even within ancient Judaism, about astronomy and how to measure time.
It's like we found a missing puzzle piece,
Yeah.
revealing another way that ancient people understood the cosmos and their place in it.
Exactly. It challenges our assumptions about how uniform ancient beliefs were and shows us that there were all these different perspectives.
Okay, so we've got different perspectives.
And speaking of different perspectives, we then move on to the Book of Dreams.
Dreams. I love dreams. What kind of dreams are we talking about here?
This section presents these two really vivid prophetic visions that Enoch experiences. The first one is about the destruction of the earth, which is a theme that we see a lot in apocalyptic literature.
Right.
But the second vision, it's called the animal apocalypse. It tells history through animal metaphors.
Wait, animal metaphors. So like Adam and Eve are represented as lions, snakes.
Think bigger and more symbolic. Adam and Eve are depicted as white bulls. Cain is a black bull. The Israelites are sheep, and their enemies are wolves and other predatory animals.
Wow, that's some powerful imagery.
Right.
What do you think is the meaning behind those animal choices?
It's a way of looking at history and human nature, but through a different lens. It's not just a straightforward historical account. It's trying to capture the deeper meaning of events and the patterns of conflict and redemption that shape human destiny.
So it's kind of like an ancient version of Animal Farm, using animals to represent different groups and their struggles for power.
That's a great comparison. It really highlights how powerful allegorical storytelling is, whether it's in ancient texts or modern literature. Using animals to represent human qualities allows us to explore these complex ideas in a way that's engaging and makes you think.
This is amazing. So far we've got angels, giants, a flood, a messianic savior, astronomy, and dream visions with talking animals. What else is this book hiding?
Well, hold on tight, because there's still one more section to explore, the Epistle of Enoch. It brings us back down to earth, with a focus on morality and the future of humanity.
All right, I'm ready for it. What does this final message from Enoch have to say about the fate of humankind? Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've journeyed through the Book of Watchers, the Book of Parables, the astronomical book, and even dove into Enoch's crazy dream visions.
Yeah, we've covered so much ground, from fallen angels and giants to cosmic calendars and animal symbolism.
Right.
But we're not done yet.
There's still one more section, the Epistle of Enoch. It's like the big finale of this whole epic story.
It is.
So what can you tell us about it?
Well, think of the Epistle of Enoch as this mix of moral guidance, dire warnings about what's to come, and a glimpse into the ultimate fate of humanity.
So it's not just stories and prophecies anymore.
Yeah.
Now we're getting into how to actually live a good life.
Yeah, exactly. The epistle starts by encouraging the righteous to hold on to their faith, promising them that all their perseverance will be rewarded.
So it's like a motivational speech for the good guys. Keep up the good work, folks, and it'll pay off in the end.
Exactly. But then the tone shifts, and Enoch delivers this really stern warning to those who have chosen to do bad. He calls out those who have abused their power, oppressed the poor, and live lives full of greed and injustice.
It sounds like there's no escaping judgment for the wicked.
Nope. Enoch makes it clear that judgment is coming. He describes this future, where everyone's actions will be weighed, and they'll have to face the consequences of their choices.
It's like this cosmic court case with the fate of all humanity hanging in the balance.
That's a great way to put it. And then to add even more to the mix, we come across this really fascinating idea, the 10 weeks of the world.
10 weeks of the world.
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
Imagine human history, divided into 10 prophetic periods, like chapters in a giant story.
Okay.
Each week represents a different era, building up to the 10th week, which marks the arrival of God's kingdom and the ultimate victory of good over evil.
So it's kind of like a timeline for the apocalypse, with each week getting us closer to the final showdown between good and bad.
You could say that. This idea of splitting history into prophetic periods was actually pretty common in apocalyptic literature. It's a way of understanding how time flows and where humanity is headed. And the Epistle of Enoch uses this framework to emphasize how important it is to choose the right path.
It makes you think about where we are on that timeline. Are we getting close to that final week, or are we still in the early chapters? It's definitely something to think about.
It is. It shows how the Book of Enoch, even though it's so old, still speaks to us now and makes us look at our own choices, think about the consequences of our actions, and consider what kind of world we're leaving for the people who come after us.
So we've explored all 5 sections of the Book of Enoch, from fallen angels and giants to cosmic mysteries and moral lessons. It's been quite a ride,
It has.
but I have a feeling there's still more to discover.
Oh, definitely. We've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more meaning, symbolism, and interpretation to uncover.
That's what makes the Book of Enoch so interesting, isn't it?
It is.
It's not just a book to be read, it's a whole world to explore.
You got it. It pushes us to question what we believe, see things from different angles, and wrestle with those big questions about humanity, morality, and our place in the universe.
This is awesome.
But before we go even deeper into the impact and significance of all this, there's one really crucial thing we need to talk about: its influence on later religious thought and culture.
Ooh, a bonus round. I like it. So how did this book, which most people don't even consider part of the Bible, end up influencing so much of Western thought and culture?
Well, remember, ideas don't just exist in a vacuum. They travel, they change, they inspire new ways of thinking. And the Book of Enoch, with all its vivid imagery and powerful themes, it's had this ripple effect that goes way beyond religion.
Okay, so how did that happen? Where can we see those echoes of Enoch?
Well, for starters, there are these clear connections to early Christian writings. Some of the early church fathers were clearly influenced by the Book of Enoch. They incorporated its themes of angelic rebellion, divine judgment, and the messianic savior into their own theological frameworks.
So even though it wasn't officially part of the Christian Bible, it still found its way into early Christian thought?
Exactly, and it doesn't stop there. We see hints of Enoch in medieval mystical traditions, Renaissance art, even in modern literature and film.
Wow. So its reach goes way beyond just religious circles. Give me some examples. Where does Enoch pop up in unexpected places?
Think about the idea of fallen angels. That's a theme that shows up in tons of books and movies, from Paradise Lost by John Milton to modern fantasy novels, and that imagery of the apocalypse with its visions of destruction and renewal. It's been inspiring artists and writers for centuries.
It's incredible how this old text has become part of our culture.
It is, and it reminds us that the past isn't really gone. It's still shaping our present and influencing our future. So as we head into the last part of our deep dive, let's keep that ripple effect in mind. The Book of Enoch isn't just some historical curiosity. It's a living text, a source of inspiration, and a testament to the power of human imagination.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been on quite a journey through the Book of Enoch, exploring everything from rebellious angels and mythical giants to cosmic calendars and prophetic dreams.
It has been quite a journey, and as we've seen, even though it's often overlooked, it's had this huge influence on Western thought and culture.
Absolutely. But now that we've gone through the actual content of the book, I'm curious about the bigger picture. Like, what can we actually learn from this text? What makes it relevant to us today, even though it was written so long ago?
That's a great question. You know, the Book of Enoch might not be in everyone's religious canon, but you can't deny its impact. It gives us this window into how people saw the world. Back in the centuries before Christianity and Judaism really took hold, a worldview that really grappled with these big questions about good and evil, the nature of the divine, and humanity's place in the cosmos.
And even beyond those specific religions, the themes in the Book of Enoch seem universal. I mean, everyone's thought about right and wrong, the meaning of life, what happens after we die.
Exactly. These are questions people have been asking forever. And while the answers might be different, depending on the culture and the time period, the questions themselves never really change. And the Book of Enoch, it offers its own set of answers, a way of making sense of the world and where we fit in.
So even though it's so old, it still has something to say to us today.
For sure. It challenges us to think critically about our own beliefs and values, to really examine the choices we make, and to think about how our actions affect the world around us. It also reminds us that we're part of this bigger story, a story that unfolds across time and space.
It's like the book acts as a bridge between the ancient world and the modern world,
Yeah.
connecting us to these ideas and beliefs that have shaped who we are.
That's a great way to put it, and I think that's one of the most valuable things about studying ancient texts. They let us have this conversation with the past, to learn from the wisdom and the struggles of the people who came before us, and to see that their hopes and fears aren't that different from our own.
It's like we're talking to our ancestors.
Right.
And realizing that we're all part of this ongoing human story.
Exactly. And in that realization, we find this sense of connection, a sense of belonging, a sense that we're all part of something bigger.
Right.
But the Book of Enoch doesn't just connect us to the past. It also makes us look ahead to the future.
That's true. With all its prophecies and warnings
Yeah.
and visions of a future judgment, it really makes you think about the consequences of our actions,
Yeah.
both individually and as a whole.
Exactly. And it emphasizes the power of choice. The Book of Enoch suggests that we're not just passive bystanders, we're active participants in shaping our own destiny. And I think that idea is just as important today as it was back then.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away about the Book of Enoch?
I think the most important thing to remember is that the Book of Enoch isn't just some historical artifact or a collection of weird stories. It's a living text, a source of inspiration, something that makes you think. And it shows us how humans have always searched for meaning in a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain.
That's a great way to put it. So if our listeners are inspired to learn more, where should they go from here?
There's so much out there. You can dive into academic commentaries, look at different translations, or even check out art and literature that's been inspired by the book. The important thing is to approach it with an open mind. Be curious and be ready to be challenged, and maybe even changed by what you discover.
It sounds like our deep dive might be over, but the journey through the Book of Enoch is just beginning.
Exactly. It's an invitation to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep discovering all the hidden treasures of ancient wisdom.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into the Book of Enoch. We hope you've enjoyed the journey, and we encourage you to keep diving deep into the amazing world of ancient texts and the timeless questions they explore.
Until next time, keep seeking knowledge, keep challenging assumptions, and keep exploring that vast landscape of human thought and imagination.